All right, welcome to Comfortably Uncomfortable. You've got Sandy and Alex here, and we are here to empower women to choose courage over comfort by getting comfortably uncomfortable. We get real and cut through the bullshit. Are you ready to get a little weird? Because we're going to laugh, sweat, cry, and grow together.
No topic is going to be TMI. Well, maybe for me, but not for Sandy. We complement each other in that way. Okay, so are we ready?
Well, yeah, duh, I am, but are you?
Okay, let's go.
The one with the mind management. All right, Alex. So I know you and I have done this in our lives many, many times, but can you think of one thing that you've thought to yourself like, oh, I'm going to change this habit, or I'm going to do this differently, i.e. hello, New Year's resolutions, that you were like, I'm going to do it this year. And then just, it did not happen.
Oh my God. I think it would be impossible for me to think of
just one
of those items.
Right.
Hopefully I'm not alone, but I feel like
no, you're not.
I do love that this topic is falling in like right at the beginning of the school year.
Yeah.
Because I like fall. I like the beginning of the school year. I think almost more as a fresh start for me. Like I appreciate it almost more than I do New Year's. Yeah. Because I just feel like you're sort of in it when it's middle of the winter, New Year's Eve. But there's just a huge shift from summertime to schedules and more of a routine. I think more so with having kids. I don't think I felt that before kids, but now with kids in school,
well, this will be perfect. Then like we can do this together, and we can be your accountability of like, this is going to be the year that you pick a change that you know, mind manage and like make it happen. All right. Cause like today's topic is about, you know, we bring it up of the fact of like, how many times have we started something to want to change a habit or like do something, yet it's like shit after day 4, you're like, well, I got off the wagon, which don't get me started on this whole idea of being on and off the wagon, but
save that for triggers.
Yeah, exactly. Save that for triggers. It got me thinking, and like, obviously I'm in physical therapy school. And so I'm studying neuroscience, and the topic came up of like neuroplasticity. And so if you know what neuroplasticity is, it's the ability to change your brain and like legitimately rewire your brain. And so obviously the scientist that I am, I'm like, let's talk about mind management in a way that's scientifically based.
Yes.
Rather than this, like, I don't know, like, again, I am a yogi too. So I'm all about energy, and I'm all about like, you got to like go with the flow and feel people and try and say yes. But sometimes it's like my logical brain goes and it's like, no, I want to know how I can like rewire my brain so that I can start doing these new behaviors in a way that like, I don't have to think about it anymore. Right. Like it becomes the default. So,
well, you're speaking my language, Sandy. You know,
I knew all my type A personalities are like, let's go, give me that list.
I love a list. Hit me.
Yeah. So, okay. Dr. Caroline. Yeah, I think that's how you say it. Leaf. She is a neuroscientist who has been studying behavior and like neuroplasticity and looking at brains and how they work. And so she wrote a book called Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess. She has a bunch of books. I'm not even going to go into how many she's got. But what I loved about what she like got me on this was her science, her research says it takes 63 days to achieve any kind of readjustment, like in your brain's energy pattern and your rewiring, like how you function on a day-to-day basis. So when you hear 63, you went like that, you went, right? Because how many days did you typically like think you had to do something?
21, right? Or yeah, isn't that
right?
What
like
they say?
21, 30, like how many 30-day challenges have you heard of and done?
Right.
And like my clients always ask me of like, oh, I did this 30-day challenge. I did this 30-day challenge. And then I'm like, why can't I keep
what happened
doing
after
30 days? Right. So I was trying to figure out exactly what and why her research was saying 63.
Yeah.
And she even is like, I don't know, but that's what the research is showing is like when we're tracking behaviors and like neural patterns and neural pathways, 63 days seems to be like the minimum. So again, I'm going to say the minimum. So anything that you want to change literally takes time. Like we all want these quick ass
which
fixes,
makes more
right?
sense. I mean, we've talked about this at nauseum. Like, how is it possible that everything changes in, 7 days, 21 days, 30 days? Like, it's not. It's every day for a really long time.
Yeah, but by the way, you just have 6 weeks off after you give a birth, and then you're fine. You're cleared.
Oh,
Just
right.
throwing
No,
that out
accept
there
that.
one more time
Accept
to just
that.
be like, okay. Anyway, back on track. This idea of like the neural cycle, and we a little bit talked about this with shame and like completing kind of our cycle, our stress cycle. We talked about this in some of our past episodes. So it totally ties together of like, how do you use your neural cycling to like create new habits or to get through grief and loss and pain or relationships, like whatever it might be. And I loved the way she put it together in this like science-based backed kind of step 1 through 5.
Yeah, hit me.
And it's not really anything new. I think the main piece that I'm going to repeat again and again is that it takes time, 63 days for you to change the way your brain thinks, reacts, wired. And if we just, at anything that you get from this episode of just like 63 days, like give yourself time, keep trying kind of thing. That's what I want to take away from it, of like anything you do.
Yeah. And like what I'm hearing is maybe not that like 63 is a magic number,
but
it's exactly what you're saying. Yeah. It's like just giving yourself time and space to make it happen instead of putting all this pressure on yourself to make it like this magical overnight change.
Oh, yeah, the quick fix, right? So the first step in this neural cycling of like when you want to change a behavior, we so jump into like the action, right? Of saying like, and we did this in our habits episode of like habit stack. Here's your action. Like here's a very tangible, objectable thing that you can do. And she is recommending actually take a step back, and step 1 is gather. So I love it. She's like, allow yourself to cry, allow yourself to scream. You're probably feeling overwhelmed with your feelings of whatever it might be. Like with grief and death, it might be sadness, but it could be frustration. It could be, just you feeling that like shame or guilt, right? Of like, and step 1, she says, allow the emotions to go through you. Yeah. If we keep trying to like hinder them, then we're not moving forward in that neural cycle.
Right. I've heard it explained like a wave, like you have to ride the wave, let the wave come over you and let it hit you. And we'll dig into this a lot more, I think, when we talk about our loss episode coming up, but like just absorbing it.
Yep.
And not
pushing it all away, or not adding expectations, just like being here, or like the way I like to say is sitting in the dirty water. Maybe I need a different one, but like just sit in it. There it is. And I feel like at least I'm a problem solver. And sometimes like even with our partners and, when we talk about wanting to help each other, like solve problems, sometimes we just got to sit in the dirty water with them, right? Hold that space for each other. Right. So I love that like, that's where she starts. It's like, no, step 1 is gather, like gather your feelings, gather what you're physically feeling. And feeling in your body, like this mind body connection, because they do drive each other. So then once you've done that, you can, and she talks about like box breathing and using your breath to down regulate your nervous system, again, neuroscience. And once you've done that of like calming your mind, now you can go into reflection. And so then step 2 is reflection, of asking yourself open-ended questions of why are you sad about this? Or why are you frustrated about this? Or why is this making you angry? I'll give you an example of how I use this neurocycling with my ex just recently. And I was like, damn it, it worked. I was like, ah. But it was, don't go into this problem solving mode. Literally just start reflecting, start asking yourself open questions about the who, the what, the why, the how, the whatever is coming up.
Right.
Step 3 was the one that I was like, BS, I can just do this in my head. I don't actually have to do it. And then I was like, all right, no, actually do it, is write. Physically write, whether it's with a pen and paper or it's typing it out so you see the words. It was write down the answers to your reflections in a journal, on paper, on your phone, on a device, but physically get the words in front of you.
Right.
And I do this all the time in my head. And I'm like, oh, I got this. I can just do this in my head.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, you need to physically see. And there's something between seeing the words, going through your neural pathways. Yep. And this is based on neuroscience of like doing that, whether you're studying, it helps you remember better, or like here, like changing behavior or really changing your mental management of how you think about things.
Well, and I think isn't it also, correct me if I'm wrong, but sort of a release? So like you're not holding all of this in your brain and your body, like it's not in you anymore. You're able to kind of expel it, like not get rid of it, but release it from burdening you so heavily in your mind, because now it's like out in the world, sort of.
Yeah.
Am I describing that right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that comes down to just maybe personality predispositions of saying like somebody was like you said, like unburden yourself. And like, that's like you helping you say like, this is what I have control over. This is what I don't have control over. When it comes to like the neuroscience part, the physically writing it, there's these connections between your like cranial nerves of like you reading it and processing it versus you just mentally thinking it. So the act of actually seeing the words in front of you is
to like articulate it.
Yeah. And it helps you organize your thoughts and emotions and process whatever, whether it's be pain, frustration, anger, whatever feeling it is. That's kind of the neuro part of it, of like physically getting it, like you said, out of your head and then into words in front of you so that you can then almost reflect on yourself. Right.
Yeah.
And that leads right into the next step, which is step 4, which is recheck. And I think that's kind of the like beginning of being actionable, because as we know, we can, what was one of my therapists? Cognitive cognitive, not dysfunction. What's the thing when you
dissonance?
No, it's almost like, when you think of something and it's distortion. There we go. Cognitive distortion. It's a fancy word for saying like you're
like you think of something, but it's different than what you're thinking.
yeah. Or like you make it worse than it is in your head.
Yes.
Yeah. So then when you like write it down, it's like, oh, well, that's not as bad, or like, okay. So
it's like, I mean, I can just simply compare it to like, I'm in the middle of a move right now, right? We're getting projects done in the new house and I still have to pack. Like, I can just let this become this overwhelming, totally massive problem that gives me anxiety, and I can just think about it and dwell on it. Or for me, I could write it down and make a list.
You're the
and here are the things I need to buy. Here are the people I need to call. Here are the things like, and then all of a sudden it just doesn't seem that bad.
It's big. Right. Yeah.
Right. Now talk to me at midnight the night before I'm moving, but but
again,
for now you can like totally wrap your head around it.
Yep.
I've had a therapist describe it too as sort of like a black box or a black hole where you like take it all in and you let it just like spin and become this gigantic problem, but you need to just start like picking it apart. And again, talk about it, write it down, something to like make yourself understand that there are a couple simple steps you can get through this, or, so I think, I love that one.
Yeah. And I think like you as a personality of wanting to like get these actionable items, I think that's where like your recheck kind of kicks in of like, oh, okay, like these are the things. And now I'm starting to get into this like solution-based place where I love that she talks about, it's also just, it's why she specifically calls it a recheck, because you might at this moment start rechecking, reflecting, and you're like, do you feel sadder? Do you feel more frustrated? Do you feel more angry? Can you give yourself permission to just go back to the gathering stage and not go into the like action stage yet, because maybe you're not quite there yet. And so it's kind of like this like feedback loop of you being able to like cognitively and, you know, physically look to say, hey, where am I? Right? Where am I in this cycle? Rather than trying to push forward when maybe you're not there yet. So I love that it's like, it could look a variety of different ways depending on the situation, depending on maybe if it's loss and grief, like that's going to take a while, right? It might take longer than the magic 63 days. Or maybe it's like a micro neurocycle where it's like, oh, I just need to like push through these steps. Within 5 minutes, I'm ready to move on to step 5 kind of thing.
Yeah.
So then step 5 is, she says, calls it active reach. It's so fancy, you know, like, hi.
Active reach?
Active reach.
Okay.
So it's like, you can do anything that's like going to help you move into the next, like move into the forward direction, which is like you brought up of like, go talk to someone about your feelings or build something like a buffer in your day that helps you deal with it. Right. So maybe it's not talking to somebody, but it's like buffering your life with more joy if you have more sadness, or like more calming peace if you're feeling overwhelming anger and frustration. The same thing.
As I take a big deep breath.
Right. Like taking deep breaths.
Exactly what I need.
Being like, and she talks about like being gentle with yourself, like this idea of, you know, taking naps, eating healthy, going for walks, getting some sunshine. So again, like depending on what the situation is, it's that active reach of going to do something. It might not be solving the problem, but going to something that is helping you move forward, and not necessarily in this straight line, but thinking in this like cycle, right? Knowing that we have cycles rather than it's always forward and never backwards.
Right. Oh, I love it.
So if you reach a point where you're feeling good only to feel bad again, it's not a sign that you've relapsed or gotten worse. It's that's how this mind management thing works. And I think for me, that was like the hitting point, because with my divorce, I, you know, have a very different experience than some of the people I've talked to and have had divorce, you know, around the same time as me. And I like feel like I should just be over it. Like I should just be over it. And when I was just going through this neurocycling for myself, and like that whole part of allowing myself to like, you know, it doesn't mean I've relapsed or doesn't mean that it's gotten worse. It's just, it's allowing myself that I'm in this cycle. It is a cycle. And maybe for the rest of my life, which seems so daunting, but it's okay. Right. Like we can do hard things.
Yeah.
It helped me get in that micro moment over it quicker. And I was shocked. So real quick story. What happened was same thing that always happens. I feel like I'm getting attacked via text. I feel like I'm not being heard. We're co-parenting about Stella. And usually I get like sucked into like the like fighting, i.e. clearly this is why we weren't in a healthy relationship. And there could be lots of reasons why on my end, his end. So I ain't trying to play the blame game, but I was here and I was feeling these things. And I was like, okay, the one thing I know I need to do is go for a walk. So I like stop. I like put my phone away. I started going for a walk. And then I was like, let's try this. Let's do this neurocycling that Dr. Leaf talks about. I want to see if this is bullshit or not, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like feeling my angry feelings. And I'm like, nope, don't go to like solution mode yet. Like, cause I was ready to be like, write him an email, do this. I was like, no, just gather. And I like started being like, I'm crying. Let yourself cry. I'm frustrated. I want to cuss. Okay, let yourself just say it and do it. I'm sure people who were walking by me are like, she crazy lady, but whatever.
But that's okay.
Yep. And so I just started like, put no boundaries on it. Just kind of let it go, said all the things, felt all the things, whatever. Then I kept walking. And I was like, hey, okay, all right. I gathered and I'm starting to reflect, and I'm like, okay, what are you really mad about? What was the thing that this and like this? And I started realizing of like, holy shit, I'm not actually mad about what just happened, because I kind of already knew it was going to happen. I kind of expected it. It's not anything new that he's done.
Right.
It brought me back. And that's what I was saying. Like, it brought me back to the pain that I felt in our marriage, not feeling heard, not feeling validated, not feeling seen.
Right. So instead of dealing with the current problem, it was like everything washing back.
Yep. It was almost like the PTSD.
Yeah.
For terms. So then I just started typing it in a note on my phone. And I was just like, okay, this is what's happening. This is what you're feeling. This is what you're actually mad about. It's not the actual, it's like right now, blah, blah, blah. And then I rechecked, I reread and did a little editing and made myself a little note to myself almost. And I'm telling you, this is within 20 minutes. It didn't take days on days. It was just right. And here I am, I'm walking on my walk, blah, blah, blah. And then literally I was like, okay, my active reach is honestly, I don't need to engage in this conversation with him anymore. It is what it is. It's out of my control. I gave him a little thumbs up emoji and I was like, damn, Sandy. But the best part was usually if I'm giving that thumbs up emoji, it's I'm actually pissed and I'm stewing. And then for the next 3 days, I'm just holding on to all of this. And I start beating myself up. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? Am I still in love with him? Does that mean I still need it's crazy town in my head. Let's just talk about this. But in that moment where I took the time, 20 minutes to complete this neurocycle, I was like, hot damn. Okay. And now I'm not saying I do it every time. No, it happened just the other day again. And I was like, I didn't do it. I'm going to soak in this dirty water. But I actively making the choice to go through those 5 steps. That was my example of just oh, wow. Okay. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen again.
Right.
But in what she talks about in her book, the more you can do it over the same situation. So every time he gets that elicited feeling from me, the quicker I become at gathering, reflecting, rechecking, and doing those 5 steps, that's where the neuroplasticity starts rewiring to where I have to do that less and less. And I go from that, he says, does whatever, triggers me, my brain's rewired to where it no longer affects me the way it did. And that's where I was just dumbfounded. I was like, wow, I'm changing it on a brain level. Not I'm choosing happiness right now. Or I'm choosing to not be affected. No, it's it's affecting your brain.
Yeah. Wow. I think that's awesome. Keep doing it. Sounds like it's working for you.
So which one do you want? What are you going to do?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to let it, I think right now in the midst of all my craziness with, multiple family, moving, new house projects, kids going back to school, I think I need to really reflect on the items instead of letting it all spin in my head. So getting it down on paper. So I'm going to work on that today and I'll report back. It makes me think of one thought that someone told me during coaching session, all about energy and how we're in control of our own energy. Right? We don't have stress. No one's handed us stress. We generate it. We generate it through our energy. And now a lot of people might be like, all right, F off, I'm stressed. But
no, I think when you put really your point is your neural mind management can either create more stress or diminish it. And so I think these 5 steps, like you said, it's some people are super easy to be like, this doesn't bother me. And I'm like, I can't do it. But you pinpointing of step 2 and 3 of reflect and write will allow you to help you create that energy to not feel stressed.
Yes, exactly. I love it. This is so fun. So much more to dig into. More to come. Always.
Thank you for showing up today. Getting awkward is always more fun with friends. Give us a review, tag us, and share us so we can continue to grow together.
Use hashtag CUPod, letter C, letter U, or tag us. You can find Sandy on Instagram at sweatandshineon and Alex at aj.afterbabyfit on Instagram and afterbabyfit on Facebook and YouTube. We'll see you next time.